I'm going to show you the cast on that I use for my socks. I use a cable cast on. It's nice and stretchy. It's got this lovely neat rolled edge here, which is perfect for socks, but sometimes it can be a little bit tight, so you have to be a little bit careful when you're casting on. I choose to cast on a size larger needles, but you can cast on over 2 needles, or just be careful that you don't pull your stitches too tight if you're going to use the same size needle that you're using for your sock. I always cast on double pointed needles and work the first 2 rows before joining into the round, and that makes it much less likely that I'm going to twist my stitches when I do join them into the round. It does leave a little gap here. You can see it's only a very small gap, and you've got to weave this end in anyway, so it's very easy just to fix that gap once your sock is finished, and then nobody will ever know that it was there. So let's get started. We need to begin by making a slip knot. I do this by folding the yarn over itself and pushing the working end of the yarn through the loop and then pulling it. This gives you a loop that you can adjust when you put it on the needle just by pulling the working yarn, and it makes it to the right size for the first stitch. To make the next stitch, you put your needle into this loop, wind the yarn around as if you were going to knit, but instead of sliding the stitch off the needle, you pull it out into a bigger loop and put it over the end of your first needle. You make the next stitch by going in between both of the loops, winding the yarn around and pulling it through. And that's it. That's all you need to know to create a cable cast on. And you just need to repeat this until you've got the right number of stitches for your sock. And you can see that the rolled edge is starting to appear here already, and this will give you your nice sturdy stretchy cast on ready for your sock. Once you've done your first 2 rows on your double pointed needles, then the next thing to do is to join into the round. I'm using a short circular here, and it's really easy to do this. You just knit off the double pointed needle onto the short circular. So I'm continuing in the knit 2 purl 2 rib that I've done so far, and I just knit all the way along the number of stitches that I've cast on. Now I've cast on 64 stitches, so that's what we do all the way along here until we get to the end. Here are my stitches on the short circular needle, and now what I want to do is join them into the round. So instead of turning my work and going back the way that I've come, I want to carry on going round in a circle. The first thing I'm going to do is put a stitch marker over the end of my needle so I know where the beginning of the round is, and then I'm going to bend the ends of the needle round so that I can knit into the stitches that you would think would be at the end of the row, but they're now at the beginning of the round because we're knitting in the round now, not knitting in rows anymore. And that's it. I'm now joined into the round. Don't worry if the yarn here seems to be a little bit loose. It might be for a couple of rounds, but that will soon tighten up. Here's the gap that we know that we'll have to sew up later on. And you might also find that your rib is a little bit tight on your needle, depending on what size of short circular you're using. Don't worry about that either, because as soon as you start to get to the leg part of your sock, then it will all loosen up and it will become much more comfortable in your hands.